Join me as we go on the hunt for a spectacular, world-class typical whitetail. I was down at the ranch at the 1st of October for a dove hunt, and we decided to put a few cameras out and see what we might be able to find on the ranch. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know, I'd get this picture right here. Now, one thing I've learned about trail cameras through the years is they can be deceptive. Sometimes they make the deer look bigger than they are. Sometimes the deer seem smaller than they actually are. But the one thing they tell you for sure is whether or not there's a deer there you ought to go look for. Now, I happen to know this deer really well. I followed him for several years, got video of him for several years, so I knew how big he's been in the past and thought, well, maybe this is the year where he's finally big enough. A couple of details about him. He's at least 8, possibly 9 years old, and weighs 270 pounds, which might be the heaviest whitetail we've ever taken off of the ranch. So before we go on a hunt for this guy, let's take a little time and go back into the archives and look at some video from years past and watch his progression through the years and see what we can learn. This is the first time I ever saw the buck. It's the 2021-2022 season, and the key thing to look at here is how old do you think this deer might be? At the time, I thought him to be 4, possibly 5. I really liked his frame. He had a fork, good brow tines, and just a great shape, good main beams. Unfortunately, I never got any closer video to really see him because this was towards the end of the season, but I made a mental note that really liked this deer and be very interesting to see what he might grow up to be. So what do you think? 4? 5? I don't know. Here he is again in the 2022-2023 season, and it's obvious he's blown up in every way, and it's obvious that this is a deer I need to keep up with. Believing that he was a 4-year-old last year, I assumed that at 5 this year, there's just no way I was going to go shoot a 5-year-old, although he was certainly tempting. We don't shoot 5-year-olds. We typically let the deer get to be between 7 and 10, and we just found that they continue to grow and get better with age. So shooting him wasn't something I considered, but I can tell you I was pretty darn jazzed to be able to sneak up on him with a camera. It's catch and release deer hunting at its very best. And it's every bit as challenging, if not more challenging, than hunting with a rifle, especially if you want to try to get close and make an awful lot of stalks, awful lot of unsuccessful stalks. So when one works like this, it's pretty gratifying. So a little later in the season here, and I see him again, and I just got to go take a video of him one more time. And there he is showing off again. Now, the interesting thing about this deer is he roamed over a very large area. I typically saw him over about a 3,000 acre area, and so patterning him was really hard. You just never know where you were going to find him, and really kind of a challenging deer to pattern. Now, later the next season, I was out looking for a deer that a buddy of mine had shot, and wouldn't you know, I stumbled up upon this deer's left shed antler. Quite an exciting find, and while I thought the deer here was, in the upper 90s, I was really wrong. Let's take a look at what he actually was. I was out walking in the brush the other day, and I was lucky enough to stumble on this fellow right here. Pretty incredible shed, and I thought, you know what, it'd be kind of fun to dig into the shed pile here and pull some of the antlers out we found over the last few years and take a look at them and see what this ranch is capable of producing. So I got video of this deer last year. He was really incredible. You can see it's broken right here. He had about a 3-inch fork. Giving him an allowance for that 3 inches, and what we got here is this is 95 6/8 inches of antler. Now, on the hoof, I thought him to be somewhere around 196, 198. Appears that I somewhat grossly underestimated him, because giving him an allowance for the other side, it appears he was more like somewhere between 210 and 212. And here he is in the 2023-2024 season, and you can see that he's shrunk up a little bit. Just not quite what he was the year before. Beautiful frame, looks nice. Great to see that he's still doing so well, but by the time I found him, he'd already broken the brow tines and Just no way I was going to shoot a deer that had already broken up like that. Fun to see him though. 2024, 2025. Still got that spectacular frame and those great looking points. But curious to me is brow tines still weren't as long as they were back a couple of years ago when he had those beautiful brow tines. But he's got a great frame, only 11 points, and I think he just broke that other brow tine off clean. I never saw him before he had that look right there, so I'm pretty sure it was just broke off. Love getting this video, but I love watching him grow up, and you can see he's starting to look pretty mature there. Beautiful whitetail in every way. And so at the end of this season, I was already wondering, what's he going to look like next year? Showtime. First time I spotted the deer this year, he was about 500 or 600 yards away. I was out riding around with my wife and dog, and no camera or gun, but I could tell he was big enough to go chase, and at least now I knew where he was hanging out. So this is the second time I saw him and was able to sneak up about 175 yards. Wanted to get a little video, see how big he actually was, and I knew then that, nope, this is a deer I need to chase this year. I saw him one more time when he walked across the road just briefly at about 100 yards and about had a heart attack and knew if I ever saw him again, I'd have the gun. So let's go see what we can find. So it's a couple of days later, and I spotted him right at daylight and marking where he is on the road, and I go crawling through the brush on my hands and knees with my rifle, binoculars, and a camera on a Manfrotto tripod, and ease out into some 5-foot grass, and wouldn't you know it, I'm just too close, and the deer that there in the foreground had come out since I last looked, and they booger off. Now, I've got the camera out, but I'm still back in behind the grass, and he can't really see me. He doesn't know what's going on. But he knows that something's up because everybody else is excited. Well, I've got the rifle on him right here, and I keep telling myself, do not take a head-on shot. Do not take a head-on shot. Now, he's a little agitated, but again, he doesn't know really what's going on. He's wondering why everybody's left the road. And usually in a situation like this, he might just turn and kind of walk off the road. The older deer tend to be a bit more mellow, but you know, so I'm thinking as soon as he turns, I'm going to shoot, and well, wouldn't you know it, no shot. After the buck went off the road the first time, I just eased back into the bushes and sat there. I put the camera out where it'd be in the right position, and I stationed the rifle in the left rut there, so thinking if he comes back out, I'll just turn the camera on, roll out Navy SEAL style on my belly, and it'll be perfect. But of course, the spike right there is about 15 yards in front of me, and the big buck, he caught my movement in the grass. Now, I'm really well hidden, but he saw the movement of my arm turning the camera on, and so I'm in this really awkward position, shaking like a leaf. I've already had one massive heart attack when he went off the road the first time, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, please tell me this isn't going to happen again. I worked too hard. I spent too much time. I've crawled 200 yards in the brush to get in this position. It's perfect. I don't want to blow it now. So I'm frozen, hoping that he'll just settle down, and if he ever turns away from me, I can roll out into the road and get a shot. And it looks like he might calm down. You know, he's not sure quite what to do. He's looking around. So when he goes down to take a bite, I'm thinking, this is going to work out. This is going to work out. Just be cool. Be cool. Don't move. But then he picks his head back up again, and I can just tell this is not going to work out. Still frozen. Arm on the camera, me behind the bush, shaking like a leaf. And when he starts to walk off, I'm having another heart attack, but I'm thinking maybe. But here, when he shakes his tail like that, I'm like, oh, Lord. So he trots off. Well, I roll over now immediately into the rifle and pray that he'll just stop behind the bush. And here we are.
All right. Been a great morning here in Old Mexico. Been a great morning here in Old Mexico. Yeah. So I've been following this guy for 5 years now. 3 years ago, found his sheds, and he was probably 210 or 212 then. He had a forked 3 on both sides and a forked brow, and he got away. Then he got smaller for the hollow. Let me start all over.
You want me to stop it and start it?
Nah, I'll just let it roll. I can edit. Great day here in Old Mexico. I've been chasing this guy for, this is the 4th year. Actually the 5th year. I saw him 5 years ago. I thought he was a 5-year-old then, or a 4-year-old then, and he was beautiful. The following year he blew up, got giant, but I didn't think he was old enough. Then he shrank for a couple of years, and then found him this year. What a stalk. I saw him down the road, got out, grabbed camera, binoculars, gun. I can't breathe. Snuck up on him, got up close, turned the camera on, and some does started spooking. And wouldn't you know it, he kind of got nervous and left the road. And so I sat in the dirt behind the bush for an hour in the grass, waiting for him to come back out again. Finally, he walked back out at maybe 75 yards. I still had the gun in the road. I eased out to make sure that the camera was rolling, and he saw me move, but he wasn't sure what I was, so he sat there and watched me for a minute or two, and then can't breathe. Then he kind of got agitated a little bit and turned and started to walk off the road. Look at those main beams, giant. Started to walk off the road, and he stopped behind a bush, and I had a hole through the bush about the size of a basketball. So I took the shot at maybe less than 100 yards. Here I am with my wife Tina on a gorgeous morning, late November in Mexico, and couldn't be more excited. What a trophy. I think I mentioned this, but I can hardly breathe. Very exciting.